It is anti-help, actually. Let me check something. So let me get into serious mood for a bit. Well, seriously mocking mood, I guess, to be honest. Bucha Massacre. We'll see if it'll even register if I... Yep, it's here. So Bucha Massacre, we all know what happened. A bunch of people were rounded up, shot in the back of the head by Russian soldiers. We had satellite images. We had tons and tons and tons of evidence. I mean, basically nobody disputes it at some point. Early on, when we learned about it, when the place was liberated and all the bodies were discovered and buried, etc., when the mass graves were discovered, there were some people in the online debate sphere, and I suspect in the Russia propaganda sphere, that floated around a conspiracy theory that, you know what, it wasn't actually the Russians that did this. It was the Ukrainians. The Ukrainian soldiers massacred the Ukrainian people in Bucha in order to blame it on the Russians. That was a conspiracy theory that I've actually heard float around. That is a conspiracy theory that I've heard pushed in debates, in those early debates that happened about the war in Ukraine. And at this point in 2024, I would think that thinking that or even trying to push that sort of narrative would be laughable. That anybody that would seriously say, oh yeah, it was the Russians that killed people and it was the Ukrainians that killed people in Bucha, that anybody who said that it was Ukrainians killing Ukrainians, that just would be laughed out of the room. But no, apparently there are still people who bravely and proudly push such narratives, not in online debate spaces, not in some niche, who knows what, Russian misinformation pages. No, it is proudly being pushed in the Polish mainstream media by politicians, by Polish politicians from a certain party, from a very particular party. The party is called Konfederacja, which translates to the word confederacy. Confederacy is a very specific party. If the Law and Justice Party that ruled Poland not so long ago can be defined as far right, then I guess Confederacy in that configuration could be described as far right plus, far right, far right super, whatever you want to call it. They've pushed conspiracies that are so ridiculous, that baffle the mind when you would hear them. One of the conspiracies that the Confederacy Party pushed, which I'm surprised that any serious group, they actually have seats in the parliament. Not many, a very small amount, but they do in fact have seats in the parliament. And I also believe they have representatives in the European Parliament. So keep that in mind when I continue telling that story. So they pushed a conspiracy saying that Poland is actually not Poland anymore. Poland is actually, I believe they call it Ukropol, which is a combination of the words Ukraine, Ukraina, and the words Polin, the Hebrew word for Poland, because Poland is not ruled by Polish people anymore. It is ruled by Jewish people together with Ukrainians that speak Polish. There you go. That was the theory that was pushed, or maybe still is pushed, by the Confederacy Party, among many other conspiracies. I think the most famous or infamous, however you want to look at it, politician from the Confederacy Party is Grzegorz Braun, which is actually one of the protagonists of my little topic right now. Grzegorz Braun is one of the protagonists of the thing that I'm about to talk about now, that I'm already talking about now. Grzegorz Braun, famous for meeting with Russian spies that have been thrown out of Poland. Grzegorz Braun, very famous for coining the term "stop the Ukrainification of Poland." Grzegorz Braun that has famously destroyed a Christmas tree because some of the decorations were in Ukrainian flag colors. Yes, he threw himself at a Christmas tree because he did not like that some little decorations on it had Ukrainian flags on them, so he had to destroy it. Grzegorz Braun, that famously during the parliament celebration of the Hanukkah stormed in with a fire extinguisher and extinguished the Hanukkah candles, and also attacked the people that tried to stop him, shooting the spray into a doctor's eye that tried to stop him. Then she suffered some eye damage because of it. So I guess that's, yeah, a very, very famous person indeed in Poland. And now, one of their latest, and of course, there's Janusz Korwin-Mikke. Janusz Korwin-Mikke actually is much more famous internationally because Janusz Korwin-Mikke is actually one of the founders of the Confederacja Party. He is much more famous on an international stage because he was in the European Parliament, and during his time in the European Parliament, during his moments when he was given the microphone, he would say such beautiful things like, I think he called immigrants human trash and worse. I'm not sure if he would say that in the European Parliament, but he famously says that women should not vote, that women are just weaker and dumber, and that Poland should go back to being a monarchy. He is a proponent of monarchy, but he also thinks that women are dumber and weaker, and that immigrants are lesser and human trash. That is actually the wording that he used when speaking in the European Parliament, that they're human trash. So that's Janusz Korwin-Mikke, and also that's Grzegorz Braun. So both of these fine gentlemen have given their opinions on the Bucha massacre very recently. We're gonna listen to it. I mean, I'm gonna listen to it. I'm gonna translate it to you because I suspect that no English translation of this little spectacle exists. I suspect that nobody has ever translated this to English. So let's go. I think I have given you ample context. I think I've given you so much context that it's maybe even a little bit too much. But that is the Confederacy Party. Also, the Confederacy Party, I believe, pushed the conspiracy that actually the war in Ukraine's goal, the goal of the war in Ukraine is to deplete Ukrainian people, okay, bleed out Ukrainian people, so that when inevitably Jewish people get kicked out of Israel, they'll be able to go to the newly depopulated Ukraine and start a new Israel on that land. Thank you. That's another conspiracy theory, courtesy of the Confederacy Party. There you go. Cool. Cool. I knew it. All right. Let's watch the video of the fact that this sort of thing can exist in the mainstream media is incredible to me, but I guess it is what it is. I can see Polish television, TVN. This is the mainstream media. So it's just, it baffles the mind. It baffles the mind. Okay, let's listen what they have to say.
Proszę Państwa,
Ladies and gentlemen,
po zajęciu Buczy przez wojska ukraińskie,
after Bucha was taken over by the Ukrainian forces,
oczywiście jak wszyscy wierzyłem, że Rosjanie wycofując się wymordowali nieszczęsnych Ukraińców.
as anybody else, I believe that the Russians retreated and murdered the poor Ukrainians.
Niestety,
Unfortunately,
następnie z każdym tygodniem
with every passing week,
narastały wątpliwości.
my doubts were becoming bigger.
Już po 2 miesiącach byłem
After 2 months have passed,
na 80% przekonany, że
already I was 80% sure
to wcale nie Rosjanie,
there was no Russians at all.
a po 3 miesiącach
After 3 months,
byłem przekonany w 100%,
I was 100% sure,
robiąc bardzo dokładne śledztwo.
after a very careful investigation. Yes, I really trust Janusz Korwin-Mikke, of all people, to do a very careful investigation. My mom met that guy, by the way. I still remember how she described him. She described him as very, very boring, a very mediocre man, and also not very intelligent. You can trust my mom's account or not. You can make of that what you will.
Otóż, proszę Państwa,
Ladies and gentlemen, it's like this.
zacznijmy od dalekiej historii.
Let's start from the far off history.
W 1945 roku
In the year 1945,
wyzwolono Francję
France was liberated,
i wtedy Maquis, czyli partyzanci francuscy,
and then Maquin, the French
partyzanci francuscy
freedom fighters,
wymordowali 9 000 kolaborantów,
killed 9,000 collaborators.
czyli którzy zgodzili się współpracować z hitlerowskimi okupantami Francji.
So French freedom fighters killed those who agreed to collaborate with the Vichy government.
I dokładnie to samo nastąpiło w Buczy.
And exactly the same happened in Bucha, which actually makes no sense. To be quite honest with you, this comparison makes no sense. If you think about it for even 2 seconds, this makes no sense. How would the people of Bucha even collaborate? With who? There was no Ukrainian government at that time established that cooperated with Russia.
Józef Goebbels i
Joseph Goebbels
Henryk Himmler
and Henrik Himmler
wywiązali się
have, I don't know, have done their job.
ze swoich obowiązków
Yeah, performed their duties
jako sprawujący jurysdykcję
as those who held the jurisdiction
na terenach okupowanych, lepiej
over the occupied terrains.
w przypadku Katynia niż pan
Better in case of Katyń
Zełenski w przypadku
than, better than Goebbels. Wait, I'm sorry, what? What the fuck? What?
na terenach okupowanych stali się Henryk Himmler.
Henrik Himmler
Wywiązali się
have performed their duties better
ze swoich obowiązków jako sprawujący jurysdykcję
as those who had jurisdiction of the occupied terrains.
na terenach okupowanych lepiej w
They've done it better
przypadku Katynia niż
in the case of Katyń
pan Zełenski w przypadku Buczy.
than Zelensky in the case of Bucha. What is this? This is even... The Nazis were the occupiers of Katyń. Zelensky is the... I'm sorry. Is he saying that the Nazis were some sort of liberators of Katyń? They were not neither invaders and occupiers? Why is he comparing the invasion of the USSR to Zelensky liberating, I guess, Ukraine liberating Bucha from the Russian... That is such a messed up comparison. Zelensky isn't a person holding jurisdiction over occupied area because Bucha is Ukrainian territory. Grzegorz Braun is the biggest nutcase in the entirety of the Confederacja Party. I've already explained why. I've already given you plenty of examples why this man is a nutcase.
Po wojnie
After the war,
wiadomo, że bycie świadkiem zbrodni katyńskiej kosztowało wielu życie,
being a witness of the Katyń massacre has cost many people their lives,
ale prawdy nie dawało się już zagrzebać.
but the truth was impossible to hide.
Otóż tu, w tym przypadku,
In this case,
w Buczy,
in Bucha,
urządzono tylko bardzo rozbudowany spektakl propagandowy.
a huge propaganda spectacle was organized,
Natomiast nie przeprowadzono żadnych badań ani
but there was no, what do you call it? Testing. There was no investigation,
medycznych,
medical,
ani analiz
or
prawnych
analysis,
i
legal analysis. Wait, what medical examination do you need to have for people being shot in the head with their hands being tied behind their back? And what legal investigation? What are you talking about? What legal investigation would you want there to be in Bucha?
o te analizy i te badania my się dopominamy.
And we demand those to happen. This is just nonsense. This is just nonsense rambling. There's plenty of evidence as to what happened in Bucha. Grzegorz Braun is just basically just repeating Russian propaganda, which does not surprise me at all, considering just how much of a pro-Russia party the Confederacy Party truly is. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. A huge propaganda scam. Like comparing Ukraine liberating its lands to Nazi Germany invading and occupying the USSR is like the peak of, I don't know even what to say. Or saying, oh, French freedom fighters have killed 9,000 French people who collaborated with the Vichy regime. Who did people in Bucha collaborate with? And what capacity? Where was the equivalent of the Vichy government in Ukraine during the beginning periods of the war? It's just so stupid. But it is in fact so stupid. It is in fact so stupid that I sort of thought that it could be a good idea to share it with you. I thought to myself, if I was forced to be exposed to this, then so are you. If I am to be exposed to this nonsense, and so will you. Okay?